Hello, all. Good evening. Welcome to DSA. So today we are going to discuss the basic concepts like arrays. Arrays anagane like everyone thinks that it is very simple and it is easy and all, right? Arrays is a concept which is very simple and very complex also. దాంట్లో చాలా చిన్న ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉంటాయి అండ్ చాలా పెద్ద ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ కూడా ఉంటాయి. Arrays is something where people usually fail during the interviews and all, like coding interviews, kani, everywhere. So let's try to understand what are arrays and how to work with arrays. So especially when we actually work with arrays, what kind of mindset do we need to have? And when we are trying to solve a problem, how to understand the problem, how to move forward with each level. So those things we have to focus on like when we are working with arrays. So let's start with arrays, like what is an array and when to use it and all. Okay. So initially we discussed, right, like variables, we use it to store some information. When to use array? Array is when you wanted to store similar information and that to multiple items, not single item. ఒక ఐటమ్ స్టోర్ చేసుకోవాలి అంటే we can use variable. But if you want to store multiple items, then we use either arrays, lists, and there are many other data structures. And why arrays has such an important place? Let us see. Let me share my screen. Now, on lead code, if you see, there are many concepts, right? Every concept is like 200, 300 problems and all. But when it comes to arrays, how many problems do we have? 1678. So, does it mean like this is one of the most important topic? Do you agree with it? Is arrays really important now based on this count? So, ఉన్న అన్ని topics లోకి we have more number of questions on this. And why do we have these many questions? And what is the reason behind it? So when you start with like a simple problem, just it might be like printing a set of numbers, and then when it reaches, there are like different levels of problems where you might have to actually predict next stock exchange value, or it can be like any complex problem. So ala, like, and how to use these things. Yesterday we also discussed, right, searching and sorting. Searching and sorting మనం ఏ డేటా స్ట్రక్చర్ మీద అప్లై చేస్తాము? Do we apply it on arrays or do we apply it on something else? Searching and sorting is possible with arrays only, right? Because list alanti vadite, the structure is different and which can be done much faster. But when you are using arrays, like we have a lot of benefits. And moreover, interviews లో దీని మీద ఎక్కువ ఫోకస్ చేయడానికి రీజన్ ఏంటంటే, if a person can understand arrays and if a person can solve arrays related problems, he can like they can assume that what is the kind of thought process the person has. So దాన్ని బేస్ చేసుకుని they can easily calculate whether this person did really good work or is it just only what is it, like practiced some problems or something. Normal problems అయితే మనం ఈజీగా ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయొచ్చు, కానీ అరేస్లో it is not that easy. Just with a slight change, the problem might completely go into a different direction. So let's get started with some basic concepts and then we'll go into the programming. First, if I want to have an array of numbers, how do I represent them? Let's say I have these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have total 5 numbers. How many, what is the data type for these numbers? ఒక్కొక్క number data type ఏంటి? You can type it in the chat box. This is an integer, right? Even this is an integer. This is also an integer. Similarly, all these are integers, right? So how much space does it require to store these 5 numbers? Integer, for example, if you see Java, Python or Kotlin, what is the memory that it takes? Every integer takes 4 bytes, right? Now, how many numbers do we have? We have total 5 numbers, which means 20 bytes, right? Now, in memory, how does this get stored if it is an array? ఇది ఒకవేళ మనం array లాగా represent చేస్తే, how does this get stored in a memory? Let's say if this is a memory, and assume this part is already occupied. These parts are already occupied. Now, you wanted to store 5 numbers, and if it takes this much space, where will it save? Will it save something like this? 1 ikkada, 1 over here, 1 over here. Ila store chestunda arrays? Does it store something like this randomly? It doesn't. How does it store? It stores in a continuous memory block. Ekkadaina kani continuous ga 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So whenever you are using arrays, it will definitely store in a continuous memory block. Now, based on this, can we identify what is the address of each one? For example, if I give you an address of this one, let's say 0xff. Based on this, can you identify what is the address of this particular location? We know that it is just plus 4 bytes, right? So based on that, you can get to this address. If I want to go to this address, how should I go? I want to go to this place now, and I know the address of this one. So how should I go here? It is just like plus 12 bytes, right? So based on this, indexing becomes much easier. So whenever you use an array, it will store only one particular location. Migilinavani automatic runtime calculation lo they will try to obtain the address, and then it can access them easily. Adi, if you use any list or something, how will it work? It won't be exactly like this. It might be storing in different places, like random places. And if it is storing like this, you need to know where is this address, and you need to know where is this address also, right? Memory ekku use avutunda. So if you have space complexity problem, we have to use arrays. If you have time complexity problem, then you have to use other kind of lists. So now we have seen this is how we actually store a particular array, right? Now, how to access these elements? For example, let's say if the array name is A, and I'm storing these values 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, if I want to access 2, how should I access it? It is just like a simple pattern, which is A in square brackets. I can write the number, which is index. Index ela vastundi? It will start from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have to mention this one, which is A of 1. What is the A of 1 value? It is 2. If I give A of 5, what will happen? A of 5 అని ఇచ్చాను అనుకోండి, what will be the output? Can you type it in the chat box? Can anyone type what is the output in the chat box if I give A of 5? Index out of 1, so which means an exception, right? So we have to give the index which is within the range. Ee range lo index ఇచ్చినంత వరకు మాత్రమే it will work. If you give either right side or left side, negative value ఇచ్చినా లేదా greater value ఇచ్చినా, it won't work, right? So these are some fundamentals that we need to know. Now let's try to see how to traverse these elements and how to print these elements. ఆ తర్వాత how to solve some complex problems. First, if you want to print all these numbers one by one, how to do that? Variable అయితే direct variable ఇస్తాము, but here we don't know how many elements are going to be there, right? So we have to use a loop. Loop లో ఎలా print చేయాలి? Loop from I 0 to the length minus 1, right? ఈ length ఎంతైతే ఉందో అంత minus 1, because we need to go till 4 only. Length minus 1, and then you can print A of I, right? So this way we can just print it. If you want to add all the numbers, you can do the same thing. Just create a variable sum 0, and then you can just, instead of print, what you can do, you can just assign each and every value in the same row, right? Now, shall we go and try to see some examples like how to do these problems and all? And so before going into the code, just one more thing. In Java, we can, if you create an array, this can store only one type of information, which means it can store either integers, it can store either strings, or it can store any one type of products, one type of objects, right? But in Python, how does it work? In Python, it is not one type. It can have multiple types. But what if I wanted to store only one type? I want to restrict it. Then you have to use some external library, something like array is one library, or you can use NumPy. You can use these kind of libraries to make the array use only one type of data. So we will also see like how we can use different types of libraries and create arrays over there. Now let's go to our platform. Yeah. So here you can see we have array related problems starting from 11.4.11. So first let's try to understand the problem, and then we'll try to solve it without code, and then we'll write the code. So you can see here, understanding the largest element challenge. Imagine a shelf full of trophies. Each trophy has a different height, and you want to find the tallest trophy on the shelf. On a shelf with trophy heights, these are the numbers 2, 5, 1, 3, 0. Which is the tallest trophy? Among these numbers, which is the tallest trophy? It is 5, right? Similarly, we have another example. Which is the tallest trophy in this? It is 10, right? Now, let's try and see. Why do we need this? Finding the largest element is useful in many situations. For example, finding the highest score in a game, the tallest building in a city, or the most expensive item in a store. So all these cases, we use this particular algorithm, right? To find which is the biggest element or the tallest element. Next, what are the concepts that we are using? We are using arrays and we are using loops. Let's get into the next step. So in order to do this, what are we trying to do first? Let's take this example, we'll write it and then we'll come back to the code. The numbers are 2, 5, 1, 3, 0. So guys, whoever thinks this problem is very simple, it is simple, but we have to understand how we are actually trying to solve this problem. That methodology will be helpful for us in solving complex problems. So let's try to do that. So first one, దీంట్లో నేను which is the biggest number అంటే it is very easy to identify. Directly we are saying that it is 5, right? But how are we identifying that? Can anyone tell me? How are we identifying that 5 is the biggest number? Because our mind processes the data very, very fast, right? I can see these numbers and I can say that this is the biggest number. I'm internally processing all the 5 elements. Am I right? Now, if I tell you there are more elements, let's say there are like 10 elements, and I'm showing you only few elements like 9, 8, 3, 15, and there are some more elements. Now, can you tell me which element is the biggest element in this? Can anyone tell me which is the biggest number in this particular array? Is it possible? It is not possible because there are some numbers which are hidden here, right? There might be something like 20, or there might be something like 200, or it can have any kind of numbers. Since we don't know this information yet, we can't decide whether it is bigger or not, right? Same thing here also. When you see at these 5 numbers, we are able to easily say that this is the biggest number. But how our brain is actually processing this information? ఈ 5 numbers ని మన బ్రెయిన్ ఎలా ప్రాసెస్ చేస్తుంది? How are we able to say that this is the biggest number easily? Can anyone just try to think of it? ఈ నంబర్స్ చూడగానే మీ బ్రెయిన్ ఎలా ప్రాసెస్ చేసి ఇది బిగ్గెస్ట్ నెంబర్ అని చెప్తుంది? It is very difficult to identify that pattern when you have small set of numbers. In case if I give you like more numbers, let's say like 500 numbers ichanu, then will you be able to identify which is the biggest number? If I give you 500 numbers, will you be able to understand which number is biggest? Is it possible? Tell me guys, if I give you 500 random numbers, will you be able to pick the biggest number among those 500? Is it possible or not? It is possible, but the problem is ఇక్కడ మీరు చూసినంత ఫాస్ట్గా 5 numbers ఎంత ఫాస్ట్గా ప్రాసెస్ చేశారో అంత ఫాస్ట్గా యూ కెనాట్ ప్రాసెస్ ఇట్, రైట్? ఇట్ విల్ టేక్ టైం. అండ్ ఇక్కడ ఏంటి, ఇంటర్నల్గా అవర్ బ్రెయిన్ వర్క్ వెరీ వెరీ ఫాస్ట్. లైక్ ఏ నెంబర్స్తో కంపేర్ చేసిందో కూడా వీ డోంట్ నో, బట్ వీ ఫైనల్లీ గాట్ దిస్ ఆన్సర్. When you have 500 numbers, then you will realize you need to follow a particular procedure, right? So small set of numbers ఉన్నప్పుడు is it easy to understand? ఒక ప్యాటర్న్ ఐడెంటిఫై చేయాలంటే it is not that easy. But when you have big set of numbers, then it becomes easy to understand the pattern. So assume that you have around like 50 elements here, okay, in this array. Then how are you going to say which is biggest number? మనకి ఇక్కడ కనిపించేవి 4 numbers ఉన్నాయి, but there are another 46 numbers over here. So can you tell me how we can identify the biggest number in this array? First thing, we have to just divide the problem. Take this number. Is this biggest number? ఇప్పటి వరకు మనం కంపేర్ చేసిన వాటిలో is this the biggest number? If you are looking at the first one, this is the biggest number. So you'll use 9. And then you'll compare 9 with the next element, right? 8. 8 and 9. Which is biggest? 9 is bigger. So do I need to use this? Don't use it. Go to the next element. 3. So with which number should we compare? 3 with 8 or 3 with 9? You have to compare with 9, right? So even 3 is also smaller. Then you are comparing with 15. 9 and 15. Which is bigger? 15 is bigger. So remove 9 and store 15. And if you keep on doing the same process until the last element, which is 50th element, do we get the final value? Do we get the final value, which is the biggest number of the complete array? Same process, we are just repeating till the last element. Whether it is 50 or 500 numbers or n numbers. Same algorithm, same pattern. If you keep on repeating with every number and you go on till n, can we find the biggest number? Is it possible? Tell me guys, anyone, is it possible or not? So with the same approach, just ఒక్కొక్క నెంబర్ కంపేర్ చేసుకుంటూ maximum ది మనం ఒక దగ్గర separate గా స్టోర్ చేసుకుంటే we can complete this problem. Now let's try to see what is the complexity for this particular problem. Time complexity. మనం ఎన్ని ఆపరేషన్స్ చేసాం ఇక్కడ? How many operations are we doing it here? When we have one item, we have done one operation. When we have 2 items, we have done 2 operations. అలా కంటిన్యూస్గా if we have n operations, అప్పుడు ఎన్ని జరిగినట్టు మనకి? n comparisons, right? Can we consider time complexity as O of n? Is it correct? Now coming to the space complexity, మనం extra space ఏదైనా యూజ్ చేసామా apart from this array? We have used this element, right? And how much memory are we using for it? ఒక్క ఎలిమెంట్కి ఎంత మెమరీ పడుతుందో అంత మెమరీ యూజ్ చేస్తున్నాము. We are not using more than one element, right? So what is the space complexity? O of 1, right? Here the problem is simpler, but what we are trying to understand is, even with the data set, whether it is smaller or larger, you need to assume that it is larger and then follow a particular pattern. Don't just think that okay, we have only 5 numbers, I can directly tell 5 is the biggest number. అలా చెబితే ఏంటంటే దాన్ని కోడింగ్లోకి రిప్రజెంట్ చేయడం becomes very difficult. In this particular problem it might be easier, but when it goes to a complex problem or hard problem, it becomes very difficult to understand. So అలాంటి కేసెస్లో what you need to think, assume that you have more elements, not just 5, and then apply your pattern so that your pattern can be simplified easily. You can identify whether this will work or not. Once you identify the pattern, apply it on a simple example if you want. మనం ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ ఒక ప్యాటర్న్ అప్లై చేశాను కంపేరింగ్ విత్ ఈచ్ అండ్ ఎవ్రీ ఎలిమెంట్, రైట్? సో లెట్స్ ట్రై టు డూ ద సేమ్ థింగ్ హియర్ నౌ. ఈ 5 numbers ఎగ్జాంపుల్కి అప్లై చేసి చూద్దాం వర్క్ అవుతుందా లేదా. ఫస్ట్ నెంబర్, వాట్ ఈస్ ద ఫస్ట్ నెంబర్? మ్యాక్సిమం నెంబర్ ఇప్పటి వరకు మనం చూసింది ఏంటి ఇన్ దిస్ పర్టికులర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్? ఫస్ట్ వన్ ఈజ్ 2. దెన్ నెక్స్ట్ ఏ నెంబర్తో కంపేర్ చేయాలి నేను? నెక్స్ట్ ఏ నెంబర్ కంపేర్ చేయాలి ఆఫ్టర్ 2? Should we compare with 5 or 1? We have to compare with 5. So 2 and 5, ఏది పెద్దది? We are comparing these two numbers, right? Which is bigger? 5 is bigger. So I'm going to remove 2 and store 5. Next, we are checking for 1. What will happen? 1 is smaller number, 3 smaller number, 0 smaller number. Now which number should we return? మనం రిటర్న్ చేయాల్సిన నంబర్ ఏంటి? It is this number, right? That will be the biggest number. Same thing if we have to do it for smaller number, what should we do? Do the same pattern with a different comparison. First, అన్నిటికన్నా smallest number ఏంటి? Whatever you get first, right? 2. 2 and 5. Is it smaller? It is not. 1. 2 and 1. This is smaller. So remove 2, store 1. Again go to 3. 3 and 1. This is not smaller. 0. 1 and 0. 0 is smaller. So remove 1, store 0. Right? So now let's try to write code for this and then we'll go into the next problem. So let us see how we are trying to solve this problem now. We are creating a variable first, largest trophy height, and then we are assigning array of 0, which means we are assuming that the first element is always the largest one first, because మనం అక్కడ నుంచి స్టార్ట్ చేస్తున్నాం కాబట్టి, right? And then checking each trophy. You can see here we are going from I equal to 0 to I less than array dot length, and then we are comparing each and every element with largest trophy height. In case if it matches, we are just changing that value. And finally, by the end of this method, what will happen? By end of this method, we will be getting the largest trophy height in the return value, right? You can return that variable. Same thing in Kotlin also, Python also. You have a trophy height and you are searching in an array using a for each loop, and you are matching with the largest trophy height. Is there any big difference in syntax apart from the braces and all? Here we are using I and here we are using for each loop. That's it, right? So let's try to write this code once. And we will test whether it is working fine or not. Let me write a method. public. And what is the return type? We are expecting the biggest number, right, which is integer. So int find biggest, and you can pass the array, basically the data. Int array కాబట్టి మనం data type and square brackets use చేస్తున్నాం, and you can give data, or you can give even like trophy heights also. Now how to find this? First step ఏంటి? We have to assume that first one is the like largest trophy, right? So let's create a variable for that. Biggest is equal to take data of 0. Done. Next, what are we doing? Just create a for loop from I equal to 0 to I less than data dot length. Less than length అని ఎందుకు యూజ్ చేస్తున్నాను? Why not less than or equal to? Because indexing is starting from 0, right? 0 నుంచి స్టార్ట్ అయితే when you have 5 items, it will be from 0 to 4. That's the reason we are checking for I less than data dot length. Less than length ante if 4 is less than length, 5 is not less than length, so it will just go till 4 only. Next, inside what should we do? You need to just compare the biggest number and the data number, right? If data of I is bigger than biggest, then what should we do? Just store this new value in the biggest. That's it. Sorry. Biggest equal to data of I. And then once you are done with the loop, you can just simply return biggest. Right? Now, if you want to test it, just create an array first. Int, let's say heights is equal to, let me give some numbers. ఇందాక మనం యూజ్ చేసిన numbers ఇద్దామా? 2 5 1 3 0, 2 5 1 3 0. Done. So I have created an array. I just need to pass that now. Find biggest and pass this array. Whatever the output that you get, just store it in some variable, and you can try to print that variable. Let's try to run this and see. We have got some errors. Okay, I missed typing I. We have another error. Okay, this is not static, so let me put static also. Yes, we got 5. Is it correct? Now try to test it with a little bigger set of numbers. Now tell me which is the biggest number in this data set. $78 is the biggest number. Is it right? Let us see if we will get the correct answer or not. Yes, we got the correct answer. So even now, if I pass a million elements, will I get the same output? If I pass a million numbers, will I get the same output? We will get, because the formula will never change. The algorithm will never change, right? So this is how we can actually find the biggest number. Now, if you want to find the smallest number, what should we do? We have to just change this greater than to less than. And what should be the output for this method? It should be 0. Let's see. Yes, we got 0. There are many changes that we need to do. Biggest badalu naming convention should be smallest and all, right? Yes, done. So this is how we can start with array problems, and then how to proceed further, like pedda problems ki ela vellali. Let's try to understand those things also. Now till now we have seen like a set of numbers, right? So when I say these kind of numbers, this is actually single dimensional, right? Now, if I want to store two dimensional, for example, a matrix, how to store it? Is it an array? It can have something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is it an array? It is an array. And what kind of array is it? It is a two-dimensional array. And then how many rows and columns do we have? We have 3 rows and 4 columns. So you can say this is 3 by 4, right? Now, using like arrays, can we just create only one-dimensional and two-dimensional? Can we create three-dimensional arrays? Is it possible? Tell me guys, anyone? Can we create three-dimensional arrays? Yes. So let's try to understand two dimensions so that three dimensions manaki easy ga vastundi. One dimension unnappudu enti? We have written something like this, right? Okay, element to represent cheyalante we have written something like this. If it is in two dimension and I wanted to project 6, what should we do? Manam rows and columns rendu ivvali. So which row is it? 0 and 1. First row. And which column? 0, 1. First column. Right? So now when you wanted to access 6, you have to say something like this, right? And mana programming lo we call it like this. You can simply say which is column, row, and then column. Now I'll tell you some number, you guys tell me which number is it. A of 2, 3. Which is the number? It is 12. Let's say A of 1, 0. Which number is it? It is 5. Yes. So this way we can understand like how one dimension and two dimension are working, right? Now ikkadi varaku okay, but what about three dimension? Manam ikkada chusina danni base cheskoni three dimension ante it will be something like this, right? But where do we use it in real life? Real life lo three dimensions use chestama? Do we use three dimensions in real life? First demo list laga use chesamu. Second demo we used it for matrix, right? And third one, in case if you wanted to create Rubik's cube, which what is it like? Which dimension is correct? One dimensional, two dimensional, three dimensional? It is three dimension. Because Rubik's cube ante enti? We have all 6 sides, right? Each one is of one side. So front manaku kanipichedi oka side, 2, 3. Alage back, bottom and left side kuda manaku untayi, right? So anni kalpite 3 overall 6 sides untayi. So every side it is again a matrix, right? So oka side represent cheyadaniki manaki 2 kavali, right? Alage third side represent cheyadaniki inkokati kavali. Like for each side, front, back, or top, left, right, ivi represent cheyadaniki. Ala we can use three dimension for this kind of objects. Now let me tell you a small story. Like some time back it happened actually. So somehow one of my friend actually said that like a Rubik's cube ni continuously oka pattern lo like rotate chestu unte it will get into the correct one. Ante like anni colors properly arrange avutayi annaru. Is it true or false? Rubik's cube ni continuously oka pattern lo move chestu unte automatic ga colors danantata ade set అయిపోతాయి anta. Is it true? Anyone tried it? అయితే how many times do we need to do that? అసలు అది పాసిబుల్ అవుతుందా లేదా అన్నది there is no guarantee. And then we don't know how many times we need to do that. Rubik's cube, if you keep doing that, it will take like hours also, right? So how to check whether it is really possible or not? I just created a simple method that will actually take this particular thing. ఇలాంటి ఒక డేటా స్ట్రక్చర్ని క్రియేట్ చేసి అందులో లైక్ ఎవ్రీవేర్ ఐ హావ్ జస్ట్ గివెన్ లైక్ రెడ్ కలర్, గ్రీన్ కలర్, బ్లూ కలర్ అండ్ ఆల్ కలర్స్ అన్ని ఇచ్చాను. అండ్ దెన్ ఏదైతే ప్యాటర్న్లో రొటేట్ చేయాలో దానికోసం ఒక మెథడ్ రాశాను. ఐ జస్ట్ ran it. It ran for almost like nearly like 45 minutes or 1 hour approximately. And then we found that it is not possible at all. Because after like a certain number of steps, again మనం ఏదైతే ప్లేస్లో స్టార్ట్ చేసామో అదే ప్లేస్కే మళ్ళీ రిపీట్ అయింది. Which means it is never going to be into the correct order, right? Anni colors oka side ala raavadam anedi which is not possible. So we were able to identify this because we were able to do things faster. Ade nen manual ga cheyalante, like will I be able to do that? Now you might get a question, asalu anta cheyalsina avasaram emundi, time waste adi, right? But the logic over here is ప్రోగ్రామింగ్ నేర్చుకోవాలి అంటే రియల్ లైఫ్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ని ప్రోగ్రామింగ్లో సాల్వ్ చేయాలి. అండ్ దట్ యాక్చువల్లీ హెల్ప్ మీ అ లాట్ వెన్ ఐఎమ్ ట్రైంగ్ టు సాల్వ్ అ లాట్ ఆఫ్ గుడ్ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్. జస్ట్ ఓన్లీ లీడ్ కోడ్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఇలాంటివి కాకుండా రియల్ లైఫ్లో మీకు ఏదైనా కనిపించింది, ట్రై టు సాల్వ్ దట్ ఇన్ ప్రోగ్రామింగ్. ఇట్ మైట్ బి ఎ స్మాల్ ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఆర్ ఇట్ మైట్ బి ఎ బిగ్ ప్రాబ్లమ్. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ యూ హ్యావ్ సీన్ వన్ బుక్, ఓకే? ఆ బుక్లో ఒక పేజ్ నెంబర్ చూసారు. విల్ ఇట్ కమ్ ఆన్ ద లెఫ్ట్ సైడ్ ఆర్ రైట్ సైడ్? క్యాన్ యూ ఐడెంటిఫై? ఒక బుక్లో లైక్ పేజ్ నెంబర్ 300 అన్నది ఉంది. Now, can you tell me whether that page number will come on the left side or right side of the page? Can anyone tell me? Just like if you get to know the first page or something, we can calculate that, right? Like it's just even and odd. But ala calculate cheyadaniki manam daniki program rayadaniki there is a lot of difference. Whenever you try to write program and just even odd రాయడానికి ఎంత కావాలి? హార్డ్లీ ఫ్యూ మినిట్స్, రైట్? బట్ ఇఫ్ యూ గెట్ టు యూజ్ దట్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ ప్రాక్టీస్, దట్ విల్ హెల్ప్ యూ అ లాట్ ఇన్ ఇంప్రూవింగ్ యువర్ కోడింగ్ స్కిల్స్. నా కోడింగ్ స్కిల్స్ ఇంప్రూవ్ చేసుకోవడానికి లైక్ వన్ ఆఫ్ ద బెస్ట్ థింగ్ దట్ ఐ డిడ్ వాజ్ డ్యూరింగ్ మై బీటెక్ డేస్. When I was having this matrix related problems and all, like especially mathematical methods, ఆ సబ్జెక్ట్ ఉన్నప్పుడు అందులో ఉన్న ప్రాబ్లమ్స్కి I used to write code. It was not good code, but at least I used to try and I used to write code and solve the problems. So that way ఏంటంటే నాకు ఆ మ్యాథమెటికల్ మెథడ్స్లో ఉన్న కాన్సెప్ట్స్ మీద క్లారిటీ వస్తుంది అండ్ ఐఎమ్ ఆల్సో గెటింగ్ బెటర్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఆన్ ప్రోగ్రామ్. ఈ రెండు ఒకేసారి జరుగుతున్నాయి, రైట్? బికాస్ ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు రైట్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఫర్ సర్టన్ థింగ్, డెఫినెట్గా మీకు దాని నుంచి కంప్లీట్గా తెలిసి ఉండాలి. వితౌట్ నోయింగ్ ఇట్, క్యాన్ యూ రైట్ ఎ ప్రోగ్రామ్? ఇస్ ఇట్ పాసిబుల్? For example, if you have to write create a kind of mocking bird functionality, talking tom అనుకోండి. టాకింగ్ టామ్ లాంటిది ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయాలి అంటే టాకింగ్ టామ్ లాంటి అప్లికేషన్ ఆర్ సంథింగ్ దట్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ ఫంక్షనాలిటీ అది ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయాలంటే అది ఎలా బిహేవ్ చేస్తుంది, ఎప్పుడు ఎలా చేయాలి, ఎప్పుడు స్టాప్ చేయాలి, ఆల్ దీస్ థింగ్స్ వీ షుడ్ నో, రైట్? సో దీస్ థింగ్స్ యూ విల్ గెట్ టు నో వెన్ యూ యాక్చువల్లీ స్టార్ట్ రైటింగ్ ద కోడ్. కోడ్ రాసేటప్పుడు ఏంటంటే మీరు యూ విల్ థింక్ ఆఫ్ ఈచ్ అండ్ ఎవ్రీ కార్నర్ కేస్. And let me tell you one more small thing. Chala interviews lo people will ask you to write code for lift. Have you seen this online? Ekkadaina meer vinnara? In many interviews, people will ask you to write code for like how lift will actually work. There are 2 lifts or there are 3 lifts, and then ఒకవేళ టాప్ ఫ్లోర్ లో ఎవరైనా క్లిక్ చేసినప్పుడు దానికి ప్రయారిటీ వెళ్తుందా, కింద బాటమ్ ఫ్లోర్ కి ప్రయారిటీ వెళ్తుందా? సో దేర్ ఆర్ a lot of corner cases, right? If you try to write code for this particular problem, ఈ ప్రాబ్లమ్ సాల్వ్ చేసే ముందు you will try to understand each and every aspect. I'll just give you one use case. మీరు చెప్పండి అది కరెక్టా కాదా. Lift is currently in the first floor. Someone pressed second floor. Second floor లో someone pressed the button. Now థర్డ్ ఫ్లోర్ లో ఇంకొకరు బటన్ ప్రెస్ చేశారు. ఫస్ట్ ఇప్పుడు సెకండ్ కి వెళ్ళాలా, థర్డ్ కి వెళ్ళాలా? Geeta says second. Okay, others? Any other answer? సెకండ్ ఫ్లోర్ లో ఒకరు ప్రెస్ చేశారు, థర్డ్ ఫ్లోర్ లో ఒకరు ప్రెస్ చేశారు. There is some missing information here. Which direction? For example, second floor లో like already lift is going towards top. అప్పుడు సెకండ్ ఫ్లోర్ లో ఎవరైనా డౌన్ ఆరో క్లిక్ చేశారు అనుకోండి, will it stop there? It won't stop in second floor. And same thing, ఒకవేళ థర్డ్ ఫ్లోర్ లో కూడా ఎవరైనా డౌన్ ఆరో ప్రెస్ చేశారు, will it stop there? It won't stop. right? Because first it has to reach the target and then it has to come back. During this way, ఎవరైనా like top up direction లో press చేసి ఉంటే then it might definitely stop. Otherwise it won't stop. These things you will analyze only when you put it on a paper. First ఈ కార్నర్ కేసెస్ అన్ని కవర్ చేశారనుకోండి, then putting logic or writing code for this corner cases becomes much simpler and easier. Especially when you are working with arrays, this logic is very, very important. Is it clear, everyone? Shall we move on to the next problem? Yeah. So now, for each trophy, we have seen it. Time complexity, space complexity kuda chusam. Since we are searching for each and every element, it is O of n. And since we are storing only one variable, which is a constant, and O of one complexity, right? You can see the full code with sample input and output here. Next, understanding the second best challenge. So now here we are trying to identify what is the problem. Find second smallest and second largest element. So we are trying to find two different elements. Avi kuda enti largest and smallest kaadu, second largest, second smallest. So how to do this? Let's go and see. We'll try to do it on the same example once. We have these numbers. Which is the second smallest number and second biggest number? Tell me, guys. Which is the second smallest number? ఈ 5 numbers, which is the second smallest number and which is the second biggest number? Second smallest is 0 and 1, so 1. And which is the biggest one? The biggest one is 5 and then next 3, right? So we got 3. Now how are we trying to identify this pattern? మనం ఇంతకు ముందు చేసిన ప్రాబ్లం లాగా సింపుల్ గా డైరెక్ట్ గా ఆన్సర్ రాలేదు. వీ హ్యాడ్ టు డూ సమ్ ఎక్స్ట్రా ప్రాసెసింగ్, రైట్? ఫస్ట్ ఏం చేసాము, వి ఐడెంటిఫై ద బిగ్గెస్ట్ నంబర్ అండ్ దెన్ వాట్ డిడ్ వి డూ, దీనికంటే నెక్స్ట్ బిగ్గెస్ట్ ఏది ఉందా అని చెప్పి కంపేర్ చేసాం టిల్ వి గెట్ హియర్. అలాగే ఫర్ స్మాలెస్ట్ ఆల్సో వి ఐడెంటిఫై స్మాలెస్ట్ అండ్ దెన్ వి ఐడెంటిఫై ద నెక్స్ట్ వన్, రైట్? దిస్ ఈజ్ వన్ వే. వాట్ ఆర్ ద అదర్ వేస్? ఇంకా ఏమైనా వేస్ ఉన్నాయా? there is a brute force way also. ప్రతి ఒక్క నంబర్ని మీరు ప్రతి నెంబర్తో చెక్ చేస్తారు until you find the second biggest number, right? లైక్ ఈ నెంబర్ని టోటల్గా ఈ సెట్ మొత్తంతో కంపేర్ చేయాలి. ఆ తర్వాత 5ని మళ్ళీ యూ హ్యావ్ టు కంపేర్ విత్ ఆల్ దిస్ సెట్. సో అలా చేసినప్పుడు యూ కెన్ ఐడెంటిఫై ద అవుట్పుట్. బట్ విచ్ ఈస్ బెటర్? తక్కువ ఆపరేషన్స్లో ఏది కంప్లీట్ అవుతుంది? Can we do this in n operations? Is it possible? 5 numbers unte 5 comparisons tho can we do this? It is not possible because first meeku enti biggest number vastene second biggest edi anadi meeru identify cheyagalugutaru, right? If you don't have the biggest number, how can you identify whether it is the second biggest or not? Tell me, guys, anyone? Next, alage smallest kuda same thing. If you know the smallest number, then you can identify which is the second smallest number, right? Without that, can we identify directly? So let's try to see the solution now. First one, which is using brute force thing. So they simply did arrays dot sort. What did they do? Total array ni sort chesaru. How many numbers do we get? ఈ అరేని సార్ట్ చేస్తే విల్ గెట్ సంథింగ్ లైక్ 0, 1, 2, 3 and 5. Now, can you tell me which is second smallest and which is second biggest? One index lo unnadi smallest, three index lo unnadi biggest, right? We can easily identify that. But ఈ sort చేయడానికి how much memory do we need? Is it smaller task or is it bigger task? Let's go and see that. So array sort చేశారు, తర్వాత array of 1, array of length minus 2 తెచ్చుకున్నారు. Done. Same thing in Python also. Now let us see what is the other approach. Handling edge cases. In case ఒకవేళ మనకి number of elements only 2 or less than 2 ఉన్నాయి, what should we do? We are simply returning -1 -1. So this is based on the input, like whatever the program actually gives you. If they ask you to return -1 and -1, return -1s. If they ask you to return some default values like null or something, you can return those values. Next, what is the time and space complexity? So sorting of toys will take time, right? So the most common thing is it will take n log n steps. This is like one of the best time complexity for sorting. So ఇది తీసుకుంటే it will take that much space, right? అంత టైం పడుతుంది మనకి minimum to sort the elements. And after that, coming to the space, we have only 2 variables, right? So we don't want any extra memory for that. Space complexity is fine. Now coming to the better other approach, how can we improvise it? Can you find the second best toy without sorting the entire line? Is it possible? Yes, we have seen it, right? First, find the smallest and largest two prizes in one pass through the array, which we know already. మనం ఇందాక చేసాం అది ఎలా చేయాలి అన్నది, right? Next, this is similar to how we found it in the previous problem. Next, then make another pass through the array. This time, look for the smallest prize that's bigger than smallest. And then look for the largest price that is smaller than the largest. So ఇంకొక పాస్ చేస్తున్నారు. How many times are we doing the operation? For loop ఎన్ని times repeat అవుతుంది ఇప్పుడు? We need to calculate the complexity also, right? So first time biggest వాటి కోసం we are just going through one iteration. ఎన్ని operations జరిగాయి, right? And then first second biggest and second smallest, again you are doing one more iteration, which is plus n, అంటే ఎంత 2n. And in complexity, do we have O of 2n? అలాంటివి ఉంటాయా మనకి? Whether it is n, 2n, 3n, 4n, which is nothing but O of n only, right? So the time complexity will be O of n only. You can see the code here. One is for the biggest number, one is for the smallest number. Just an extra if condition, that's it. Next. Now, see, the complexity is O of n. We go through the toys twice, but it's still much faster than sorting. And 2 times వెళ్ళామంటే it will be 2n. 2n is nothing but O of n. Space complexity, it's again O of 1 because we are not using any extra variables or extra space. Just only store చేసుకోవడానికి మాత్రమే 2 variables వాడాలి. 2 is nothing but a constant, right? We can use O of 1 for that. Next, ఇంతకంటే smarter way అన్న ఉందా? Let's see. One pass లోనే మనము can we identify that? So here what are they doing? Can we do even better and find the best toys in just one pass through the time? One pass అంటే ఒక్కసారి మాత్రమే మీరు array మొత్తం చూడాలి, but you should be able to figure out which is smallest, which is second smallest, largest, second largest. You should be able to figure it out. Let us see. We'll use some 4 variables. These are 4 variables vartunam, not 2. And then we are trying to go through the loop, each element. Prati element దగ్గర we are checking whether it is the smallest. Already smallest ఉంటే you have to store it in second smallest. అలాగే already largest ఉంటే you have to store in second largest, right? You can see here. We are just going through the loop. We are checking whether the element is smallest or not. If it is less than smallest, we are changing that to second smallest, right? So అలా కంటిన్యూస్గా వెళ్ళేసరికి you will have second smallest and second largest. ఈ రెండు కూడా మనకి స్టోర్ అయి ఉంటాయి, right? If you want to try this on like paper, just check it out. 2, 5, 1, 3, this time, 3, 0. Now we have 4 variables. One is smallest, another one is second smallest, inkokati largest, another one is second largest. So how should we start with this? We have to take the first element into smallest and largest, right? And then we'll start checking it with the next elements. Okavela ee number, if this is less than the smallest, what should we do? We have to store this in second smallest and this will come into the first smallest, right? So ala, if we just keep doing repeating this step, these 4 items till this particular level, what will be there? Smallest will become 0 and second smallest will become 1. And what will be the largest one? 5. What will be the second largest? 3. You will be returning these 2 values, second smallest and second largest, right? And how many times did we pass through the array? Only once. Number of elements are n. So space complexity will be, sorry, time complexity will be of n again. But you can say ఇంతకు ముందు 2n చేసాము, ఇక్కడ n చేసాము, but time complexity రెండిట్లో సేమ్ గా ఉంది కదా అని. It is same, but in some problems people might definitely say that you have to go through only one pass. అలా చెప్పినప్పుడు you have to come up with this solution, not with 2n solution. Okay? Space like time complexity might be same in both the cases, but internal ga there is a slight difference. ఒకటి 2n ఉంది, ఒకటి n ఉంది. అలాంటప్పుడు you have to prefer the n way. Okay? Now, if you attend this kind of problem in an interview, మీరు first ఏ solution prefer చేయాలి? Should we directly go with this solution or should we go with this solution? Which is easier? 2n solution easier or like O of n solution easier? మీకు ఏది 100% కంఫర్టబుల్గా చేయగలము అనుకుంటున్నారో ప్రిఫర్ దాట్. ఇఫ్ యూ ఆర్ కంఫర్టబుల్ విత్ దిస్, టేక్ దిస్ అండ్ దెన్ ఆఫ్టర్ దట్ యూ కెన్ మేక్ ఇంప్రూవ్మెంట్స్ టు గెట్ దిస్ సొల్యూషన్. ఇంటర్వ్యూస్లో పీపుల్ ఆర్ నాట్ ఎక్స్పెక్టింగ్ ఎగ్జాక్ట్ అబ్సల్యూట్ ఆన్సర్ ఫర్ యూ. లైక్ వాట్ దే ఆర్ ఎక్స్పెక్టింగ్ ఈస్, ఆర్ యూ ఏబుల్ టు సాల్వ్ ఇట్? ఫస్ట్ థింగ్, మీరు సాల్వ్ చేయగలిగితే దాన్ని ఇంకా బెటర్ చేయగలుగుతారు. ఈవెన్ ఇఫ్ యూ యూజ్ బ్రూట్ ఫోర్స్, లైక్ ఇంతకు ముందు మనం అనుకున్నాం n log n, రైట్? Even if you use this approach, it is still fine, but this should be the first approach. This is first, దీన్ని తగ్గించడానికి this is second, and then the final one should be the third one. అదే ఒకవేళ మీరు ఇక్కడ 1 దగ్గర స్టక్ అయిపోయారు అనుకోండి, which is still fine, at least you got some output, right? లేదు, you got some extra time, you are able to solve this much better. If you are able to reach till this point, like this is the best output that you can give. Interviews, they expect also the same thing. Don't go for the best solution directly. Go for working solution, improvise it until you can make it better. Okay? Next. Yeah, this is another problem. Understanding sortedness. Now, if you see this, these numbers, can you tell if these numbers are sorted or not? Just we have to return either true or false, that's it. Is it sorted? Anni oka order lo unnaya, increasing or decreasing lo? Yes, it is in one specific order, right? Now, how about the second one, this one? It is not. So how to identify whether it is a sorted or not? Is it easy or is it difficult? And how many operations do we need to do? So there are various solutions. Like if we use brute force, then we have to do n square operations. అంటే ప్రతి నెంబర్ని నెక్స్ట్ నెంబర్స్తో కంపేర్ చేస్తున్నాము. 1 అన్నిటికంటే దీని తర్వాత ఉన్న నెంబర్స్ అన్నిటికంటే చిన్నదా కాదా, అలాగే 2 దీని తర్వాత ఉన్న నెంబర్స్ కంటే చిన్నదా కాదా. 3. Is it smaller than all these numbers or not? Right? This is one way. And the other one is just compare the side by side numbers. If you see these two things, what will happen? Is it in the sorted order? Our only difference should never be what is it, like a in positive number, right? 5 minus 4, it is 1, which is a positive number. It should never happen. అలాగే 4 6 చూడండి. 4 6, is it correct? 4 6 is in incremental order. 6 7, it is in incremental order. 7 8, it is in incremental order. So it is failing only at this particular place, right? Now ఒకసారి ఇక్కడ ఫెయిల్ అయిన తర్వాత do we need to go to the next step? నెక్స్ట్ ఎలిమెంట్ వెళ్ళి చెక్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం ఉందా? 5 and 4 దగ్గర మనకి అది నెగిటివ్ ఆన్సర్ వచ్చేసింది. Do we need to go and check for the next numbers now? We just wanted to know whether it is sorted or not, right? So ikkade manaki fail ayindannappudu just return false here itself. You can save a lot of time without going to these numbers, right? So we have solutions for these two approaches also. One is with brute force, the other one is with like a single pass, how we can actually compare side by side elements. And time and space complexity also you can see. Approach 1 lo brute force aithe it is taking O of n square. Ade if it is approach 2 where we are just comparing side by side numbers, it's O of n. Space complexity, we are not using any extra space, so it's always O of 1 for both the problems. Next, alage we have another problem which is like removing the duplicate numbers. Now here you can see there is an array where there are a lot of duplicate numbers, but continuous ga unnai avi kuda. Like if you see red, we have 2 reds. If you see blue, we have 3 blue, and we have 2 green. So when you actually create an array, you have to remove all the duplicates and just put these values directly. And after that, you are just giving like underscores. So array size taggichaledu. We are just reducing the number of elements. That's it. మిగిలిన ఎలిమెంట్స్ అన్ని కూడా we are just giving them as a default value, which is underscore, right? So how to do these kind of problems? This also we'll say it tomorrow. So that's it for today, guys. Like I think we have covered some basic concepts and whatever the required things are there for arrays today. Tomorrow we'll go into a little complex problems so that we will be ready for searching and sorting in the next week. Arrays మనకి క్లారిటీ లేదనుకోండి, searching and sorting చేసేటప్పుడు it becomes very very difficult. So అందుకని first we need to get clarity on arrays and understand how we can work with arrays, and after that we can get into the searching and sorting problems. I hope searching and sorting is something everyone is looking at. Am I right? Is it easy or difficult, sorting mechanisms? What do you think? Easy or difficult sorting? So usually like sorting mechanisms are comparatively difficult. Many people think that, and that's the reason like even a lot of coding rounds also sorting questions will be asked. If you are able to clear sorting problem, then people assume that okay, you have good like a grip on data structures and algorithms. But when we are solving sorting problems, we will understand how to write readable code, how to make it more clear, and make sure we are not getting confused anywhere. So అక్కడ కూడా మనం ఒక ఎక్స్ట్రా అడ్వాంటేజ్ని క్రియేట్ చేసుకుంటాం. ఓకే, సో దట్స్ ఇట్ ఫర్ టుడే గైస్. ఇఫ్ యూ హ్యావ్ ఎనీ క్వశ్చన్స్ వీ కెన్ డిస్కస్ డ్యూరింగ్ ద Q&A. థ్యాంక్ యూ.